The story begins in the Shinigami realm, a desolate place where Shinigami spend their time in boredom, gambling away eternity. One of them, Ryuk, remains uninterested in their games. Though they invite him to join, he declines. He's tired of the boring existence. Ryuk mutters about how nothing ever changes, growing restless. He longs for something different. You're watching Otaku Crowd. Buckle up and enjoy. There's plenty to come. On Earth, a news broadcast reports a crime in Kanagawa. A man in his 30s has been found dead in his apartment, covered in blood. The police have opened a homicide investigation. It's just one of many cases that illustrate the violence and corruption that plague society. Light Yagami, a top student, is introduced in a classroom, though his mind is far from the lesson. As the teacher recites religious teachings, Light reflects on how broken the world has become. He is deeply disillusioned with the state of society. A black notebook suddenly falls from the sky. After class, Light picks it up and reads the title, Death Note. Confused, he opens it and finds strange instructions inside. The human whose name is written in this notebook shall die. Light, skeptical but curious, decides to test the notebook's power. He writes down the name of a criminal he saw in the news, wondering if it could work. Soon after, the criminal is reported dead. Shocked by the discovery, Light realizes the Death Note is real. Over the next few days, Light experiments with the notebook, carefully testing its rules and limitations. Each time he writes a name, the person dies according to the rules. The realization of the notebook's power begins to overwhelm him. One day, Ryuk appears in Light's room. Ryuk, the Shinigami who dropped the notebook, explains that he did so out of boredom. He warns Light that using the Death Note has consequences. Once you use the Death Note, you can never go to heaven or hell. Unfazed by the warning, Light declares his intent to use the notebook to eliminate criminals and create a perfect society. He envisions himself as the ruler of this new world, deciding who deserves to live and die. I will create a new world, Light says with unwavering conviction. Now, Light is fully committed to his plan. He wants to use the Death Note to reshape the world, with Ryuk watching in amusement as Light's ambition grows. Thus begins Light's transformation into a figure who wields the power of life and death. With the strange deaths becoming too frequent to ignore, a special task force is assembled. They struggle to understand it until an enigmatic figure steps in. L. He's a genius detective known for solving impossible cases, but his identity is a complete mystery. L's voice alone carries an air of authority and confidence. He announces that he will take the case, stating that he's already noticed a pattern, one that points to a single person behind these deaths. Light and L, though unaware of each other's identities, are on a collision course. As Light's confidence grows, so does L's resolve to catch him, with each believing himself to be the true force of justice. Their battle of wits is only just beginning. In a tense moment that would shape the fate of many, a special broadcast interrupted regular programming, capturing the attention of the world. The screen lit up with the words, "We interrupt this program to bring you a special worldwide broadcast from the ICPO, Interpol." Light Yagami, who was secretly Kira, sat intrigued, wondering what was unfolding. A man appeared on the screen. He boldly introduced himself. "I am Lind L. Taylor, the sole person able to mobilize the world's police, also known as L." As viewers around the globe exchanged puzzled glances, Light felt a chill run down his spine. "Who is this?" he muttered, unable to shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. L continued, declaring that a string of serial killings targeting criminals was taking place, calling it the most atrocious act of murder in history. He vowed, "I will catch the one behind the murders, commonly known as Kira." Light scoffed, dismissing the threat. "The fool. There's no way he can catch me." With a calm demeanor, L challenged Kira, stating, "Kira, I have a pretty good idea behind your motive and why you're doing this. but what you're doing is evil." Light bristled at the accusation. "Evil? I am justice. I'm saving the meek who fear evil. I will become the God of the ideal new world. All those who oppose that God, they are evil." As L continued to provoke him, Light felt the urge to prove himself. "Come on, try and kill me," he taunted, realizing that L's defiance was making the stakes even higher. After writing L's name on the notebook, Light remarked, "The entire world is watching to see what happens if anyone defies me, L." Light smirked with confidence. Just 5 more seconds. Light counted down, and the tension in the air became tangible. L dies on live TV, and Light laughs at his stupidity. But Light, while being happy, hears L's voice. "It wasn't me. This criminal is someone the police caught secretly. His capture wasn't broadcast anywhere." Light was playing a dangerous game, but he was determined to emerge victorious. The confrontation escalated as L deduced that the murders were taking place without direct contact, a revelation that shook Light's confidence. "What's wrong? Why can't you kill me?" L pressed. The game had turned. L had the upper hand. Light understood then that L was no ordinary opponent. The live broadcasts spiraled into chaos, with viewers unable to look away as Kira faced off against his greatest adversary. The dialogue shifted, with L continuing to probe Kira's abilities. "So, there are some people that you can't kill. You've given me a good clue," he said, revealing a glimmer of understanding about his opponent's methods. In a chilling twist, L disclosed that the broadcast was only happening in the Kanto region, leaving Light momentarily stunned. "Kira, it won't be too long before I can sentence you to death," he stated confidently. The stakes were now incredibly high. Both had declared war against each other, and neither knew the true identity of the other. As the confrontation concluded, Light accepted L's challenge with a chilling resolve. "Interesting, I'll accept your challenge." The tension simmered as they both embarked on a cat-and-mouse game, each determined to outwit the other. The world was watching, and the true battle between good and evil had only just begun. L, the brilliant detective, is working with the police to unravel the Kira case. As they discuss the timing of the murders, L realizes that Kira might be a student. The killings occur at times that fit within a school schedule, and Kira's sense of justice seems immature, as if it comes from someone young. L begins to suspect that Kira has access to police information, so he asks for details about how the victims were publicized. Meanwhile, Light Yagami, secretly Kira, is able to monitor the investigation closely because his father, Soichiro Yagami, leads the case. This gives him an advantage, allowing him to stay ahead of the authorities. As Light carefully plans his next steps, Ryuk, the Shinigami who dropped the Death Note, warns him that someone is following him. Ryuk also shares more about the Shinigami's world. They gain additional life by taking it from humans before their time, and their eyes have the power to see people's names and lifespans. Ryuk offers Light a deal. If Light sacrifices half of his remaining life, he can gain the eyes of a Shinigami and see anyone's name and lifespan whenever he wants. Light is faced with a crucial decision as L inches closer to uncovering Kira's true identity, heightening the tension in their deadly game. Light, with a determined look, tells Ryuk about his goal of creating a perfect world where no criminals go unpunished. As the god of this new world, Light declares he cannot afford to sacrifice half of his life for the Shinigami eyes. Ryuk offers them, but Light refuses, confident in his ability to carry out his plan without them. Light begins experimenting with the Death Note, testing the extent of his control over how a person dies. He writes down names of criminals and specifies how they should meet their end. He soon realizes the Death Note gives him incredible control over the circumstances of death, reinforcing his belief in his power. It doesn't take long for Light to notice that he's being followed. He senses someone watching him closely and suspects it could be someone from the police, or worse, someone working for L. Instead of panicking, Light formulates a meticulous plan to unmask whoever is tailing him. He uses the Death Note to orchestrate a bus hijacking. A drug dealer is compelled to take over the bus that Light and his follower are on. Everything is planned down to the last detail, designed to push the person following him into action. The hijacking unfolds, sending the bus into chaos. While the passengers are gripped by fear, Light remains calm, knowing this is all part of his scheme. Sure enough, the man tailing him begins to move, revealing his true nature. Light's trap is working. In the ensuing panic, Light successfully manipulates the situation, forcing his follower to reveal his identity: Ray Penber, a federal agent from the United States, assigned by L and Watari. With this crucial information now in hand, Light prepares for his next move, inching ever closer to his ultimate goal. Light Yagami grows increasingly cautious after his risky encounter with an FBI agent. He knows that if his father discovers this interaction, it could lead to serious consequences, as his father might inform L, the head of the investigation. With the pressure mounting, Light becomes even more meticulous to stay ahead. At the same time, Naomi Mizora, a former FBI agent and fiancée of the Ray Penber, emerges as a significant figure. Known for her sharp skills, Naomi is intrigued about the case, setting the stage for her own investigation, driven by a personal need for an answer. Light, undeterred, continues to execute his plan. He manipulates the situation by using prisoners as pawns to test L's reactions, turning the investigation into a dangerous game of strategy. Each step is designed to provoke L, while Light remains hidden behind layers of deception. In reflective moments, Light ponders larger themes, like power, death, and justice. His thoughts drift to Shinigami, the gods of death, as he contemplates his role. He sees himself as a figure of judgment, wielding the power to decide life and death. Later, Light follows Ray Penber onto a train, where he forces him to write the names of his fellow FBI agents on a piece of the Death Note. Threatening Penber's family, Light ensures the agents will all die at the same time. The mass deaths send shockwaves through law enforcement, leading to the withdrawal of the FBI from the investigation and growing distrust within the Japanese police, who begin to question L's methods. Naomi Mizora, devastated by Penber's death, takes it upon herself to begin her pursuit of Kira. Armed with her skills and driven by her loss, she becomes a powerful force in the search for justice, determined to find the truth and avenge her fiancé. Within the Japanese police, Soichiro Yagami, Light's father, offers officers the option to leave the Kira investigation without facing any penalties. Only 5 officers remain, a testament to the growing fear and division within the force. In a bid to mend relationships with the remaining detectives, L arranged a secret meeting. The tension hung in the air as they gathered in a dimly lit room, the shadows reflecting their growing unease. L, with his sharp mind, began to share his insights about Kira. He theorized that Kira might be tracking the murders of the FBI agents. He pinpointed the federal agents' focus during that time, connecting dots that others had missed, hinting that Kira was always a step ahead. Meanwhile, Light Yagami found himself drawn into a fateful encounter. He met a woman named Shoko Maki, who radiated an air of intelligence and determination. As they spoke, he realized with a chill that she was Ray Penberg's fiancée. The conversation took a dangerous turn when Shoko revealed her suspicions about Kira's methods. She had pieced together information indicating that Kira could kill by means other than heart attacks, and she intended to share her findings with the police. Light's heart raced as he processed this revelation. This woman, unknowingly standing in the way of his grand plan, had to be eliminated. Her knowledge posed a significant threat, one that could unravel everything he had worked for. Light writes Shoko Maki in his death note, expecting her to die. But when nothing happened, he suspected something was off. Calmly, Light manipulated the situation by pretending to work for the mysterious L, Naomi, the woman he was trying to eliminate, who began to trust him. Meanwhile, at the task force meeting, Watari made his first appearance. He revealed his identity to the detectives, including Light's father, and provided them with special gadgets hidden in their clothing. These gadgets were designed to protect them in case they encountered Kira or found themselves in danger. Back on the streets, Light continued his manipulation. Naomi, now in a trance from the Death Note's influence, handed him her driver's license, confirming her identity beyond any doubt. However, just as this exchange was happening, Detective Shuichi Aizawa, sent by L, arrived at the police headquarters, narrowly missing the critical moment. The tension is growing as L inches closer to uncovering the true identity of Kira. After the shocking disappearance of Misora, L narrows down his list of potential suspects, focusing on those who were under FBI surveillance at the time of Ray Pember's mysterious death. Among these individuals, one name stands out: the son of Soichiro Yagami, Light Yagami. Although Light appears to be a model student with a clean record, L is not easily swayed by appearances. He arranges for hidden cameras to be installed in Light's home, determined to catch Kira in the act. But Light is no ordinary adversary. With his sharp intellect, he quickly becomes aware of the surveillance placed in his room. Rather than panicking, Light calmly enlists the help of his loyal companion, Ryuk. The Shinigami uses his supernatural abilities to locate every hidden camera in the room. Light knows that he's being watched, but instead of changing his behavior, he comes up with a devious plan to outsmart the surveillance team. In a seemingly mundane move, Light begins eating chips from a bag. But what the investigators don't realize is that hidden within that bag is a small, portable television. With the news playing quietly, Light can see the latest reports of criminal activity. He continues his deadly work as Kira, timing each of his killings to match the reports he watches, all while pretending to study in front of the cameras. To the investigators, he looks like a normal teenager, focusing on his studies, but behind the scenes, Light is still in full control, executing criminals without leaving a trace. Despite L's intricate trap, Light remains several steps ahead, perfectly balancing his public persona with his hidden identity as Kira. The battle of wits between these two brilliant minds intensifies as they each attempt to outmaneuver the other. L's suspicions about Light seem to be momentarily eased, but deep down, L remains cautious. He is still unwilling to completely rule out the possibility that Light might be Kira. Driven by his curiosity and need for answers, L takes a bold step. He decides to meet Light face to face. In the college entrance exams, Light is focused on his test. However, during the exam, he feels a strange presence. An unfamiliar and somewhat eccentric student has locked eyes on him. It's a person whose odd behavior immediately catches Light's attention. The stranger seems unusually calm and calculated, standing out in the crowd despite the large number of students around. After the exam, the stranger approaches Light and introduces himself with an astonishing name, Hideki Ryuga. Light is taken aback, recognizing the name as belonging to a famous idol. The introduction is unsettling because it feels like a trick. Why would this person claim to be someone so well known? The encounter becomes even more bewildering when Hideki Ryuga goes on to reveal his true identity. He is L, the very detective investigating the Kira case. Light's mind races as he processes the revelation. L is far more audacious than he expected, revealing himself so casually and at such a pivotal moment. Light realizes that killing L right now would be too suspicious, especially after this meeting. If L were to die shortly after their encounter, it would undeniably draw unwanted attention, directly linking him to Kira. This would jeopardize all the work he's done up to this point. Understanding the stakes, Light formulates a new plan. Instead of eliminating L right away, he decides to play along and befriend him. The two of them will keep each other close, like a chess game, each trying to outwit the other. Light plans to gather more information about L's true identity, and when the time is right, when suspicion isn't hanging in the air, he will kill L. For now, though, he needs to remain cautious and play his cards carefully. In the continuing tense rivalry, L devises a new strategy to better understand Light's behavior. He suggests a tennis match, knowing that this could reveal subtle hints about Light's true nature. Light agrees, and the two face off on the court, where the match becomes more than just a simple game of tennis. It's a psychological battle. Each point scored is weighed with suspicion as they carefully observe each other's moves, both physically and mentally. As they play, L begins probing, asking Light pointed questions about the ongoing Kira investigation. These questions, though seemingly casual, are crafted to elicit specific reactions from Light. L's mind races as he searches for any signs that could confirm his suspicions, but Light remains composed, offering careful, calculated responses that reveal nothing of his inner thoughts. The verbal sparring continues as L invites Light to officially assist with the Kira investigation, knowing that involving Light could help him monitor any potential slip-ups. After the match, they decide to continue their talk in a cafe, but their tense conversation is interrupted when they receive alarming news. Soichiro Yagami, Light's father, has suffered a heart attack and is now in the hospital. The two immediately rush to his side. Standing by his father's hospital bed, Light makes a solemn promise. He vows to catch and ensure Kira's execution, blaming the killer for causing his father so much pain. It's a moment filled with genuine emotion, but L watches closely, his sharp mind analyzing every word and expression. On their way out of the hospital, L takes the opportunity to confront Light once more. He remains deeply conflicted, still unable to fully determine whether or not Light is truly Kira. His suspicions have not lessened, and he scrutinizes Light's every move and word, hoping for a clue that will break the stalemate between them. Sensing this, Light decides to make a bold move. In an attempt to prove his innocence, he offers an extreme solution. He asks to be placed in a prison cell for 1 month, completely isolated from any television or external media. Light believes this proposition will convince L that he cannot be Kira, as he would have no means of knowing what happens in the outside world during that time. L is intrigued by this offer, though he remains skeptical. It's an odd suggestion, one that piques his curiosity, but he decides to hold off on accepting it immediately, wanting to keep observing Light a little longer. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a television station, Sakura TV, receives a chilling message. Audio tapes have been delivered, claiming to be from Kira. The tapes send a ripple of fear through the network and beyond, leaving everyone questioning whether Kira has truly revealed himself, or if there is someone else trying to assume the identity of the mysterious killer. Sakura TV unexpectedly begins airing a series of pre-recorded messages that seem to promote the agenda of a mysterious figure. These broadcasts are dangerous and designed to sway public opinion in favor of this elusive entity. An investigation team, recognizing the threat, scrambles to stop the broadcasts, but finds themselves unable to directly contact the station. Desperation grows as they realize they have no way of preventing the message from reaching the masses. One of the investigators, Hirokazu Ukita, decides to take matters into his own hands. He rushes to the TV station, determined to shut down the broadcast. However, something inexplicable happens. Just as he arrives in front of the station, he suddenly collapses and dies, alongside 2 police officers nearby. The team watching this from a distance is left in shock. The rules have changed. The mysterious figure no longer needs a person's name to strike them down, and the team begins to suspect that this might be a new, even more dangerous individual behind the recent deaths. Meanwhile, Soichiro Yagami, Light's father, hears the alarming news about the broadcasts. Determined to put a stop to it, he hijacks a bus and crashes it into the lobby of Sakura TV, taking great care not to expose himself to any potential danger. His plan works. After the crash, he seizes the tapes containing the dangerous messages. With the help of his team and the police, they shield him from view as they escape, ensuring that the incriminating material is brought safely back to headquarters where it can be analyzed. As these events unfold, a new character emerges, a young woman named Misa Amane. In a private conversation with a supernatural being, she expresses her unwavering devotion to the mysterious figure behind the killings. She reveals that she has made a life-altering trade, giving up half of her remaining lifespan in exchange for an ability that will allow her to identify anyone with just a glance. This new development hints at a growing danger, with powers far beyond what the investigation team had anticipated. Light meets with L and the detectives, who are still trying to figure out the identity of Kira. To test Light's analytical skills, L gives him the confiscated recordings from the second Kira and asks him to listen for any clues in the voice. Light analyzes the recordings, noting that the voice seems more emotional and impulsive compared to the first Kira. L listens closely to Light's deductions and concludes that Light might not be Kira after all, feeling a bit more confident in his assessment. Later, the team broadcasts a fake message to the second Kira, using Light's voice to bait a response. It works, and the second Kira, Misa, responds, but in doing so, she unintentionally reveals crucial information about the Death Note and the existence of Shinigami. This catches the attention of everyone involved. Light begins to panic internally as Misa's message continues, revealing things that should remain secret. She even demands to meet the first Kira in person, which shocks the detectives and gives them a new lead to pursue. Light, meanwhile, is forced to carefully consider his next move. While this is happening, Rem, Misa's Shinigami, explains to her the way a Shinigami can die by falling in love with a human. Rem tells the story of a Shinigami named J-Luce who had been watching over Misa from the Shinigami realm. One night, when a stalker threatened Misa's life, J-Luce couldn't stand by and let her die. He used his Death Note to kill the stalker, sacrificing his own life in the process. As a result, the remainder of J-Luce's lifespan was transferred to Misa, unknowingly saving her life that night. This revelation leaves both Misa and Light with much to think about as their respective situations become more complicated. Detective Tuta Matsuda and Light Yagami volunteer to investigate the journal entry's date in Aoyama. Matsuda is eager, but Light has his own hidden agenda. He wants to unmask the second Kira while ensuring that his identity remains hidden from the Shinigami tailing Misa Amane, the second Kira. To avoid suspicion, Light gathers a group of his friends to accompany him, forming a protective shield as they walk through the streets of Aoyama. Misa, equipped with the Shinigami eyes, can see the lifespan of everyone except Light. This anomaly makes her certain Light Yagami must be the real Kira. Her excitement is undeniable as she now knows Kira's true identity. Meanwhile, back at the investigation headquarters, Misa's confirmation sends shockwaves through the team. They realize the gravity of the situation. Misa has met the real Kira, and if her actions aren't carefully monitored, things could spiral out of control. The investigation team changes its strategy, deciding to publicly broadcast a message condemning Kira. They label him a cold-blooded murderer, a ruthless being willing to kill anyone who dares to discover his identity. However, they also try to reason with the second Kira, offering a reduced punishment if she reveals key information about the real Kira. Misa, driven by her newfound love and obsession with Light, dismisses the investigation team's plea without a second thought. Instead, she tracks down Light and boldly confesses her feelings. She admits she has followed him, revealing that she possesses the Shinigami eyes and knows who he truly is. But rather than being scared or wary, Misa is overwhelmed by her affection, pledging her loyalty to him, declaring her love and willingness to do anything for him. Light Yagami takes another calculated step, deciding to use Misa Amane's deep love for him to his advantage. While he tells Misa that he can't truly be her boyfriend, he agrees to act the part. Misa, overwhelmed with joy, eagerly accepts this arrangement, promising to do whatever it takes to make Light truly fall in love with her. However, Light's real plan is far from romantic. In his mind, Misa is just a tool he can use to achieve his goal, the elimination of L. He intends to use her to find out L's true identity and then dispose of her when she is no longer useful. Misa asks Light to show her his Shinigami, and though Light hesitates for a moment, he agrees, knowing that doing so will deepen her trust in him. When Ryuk reveals himself, Misa is excited, even addressing him by name. This playful and enthusiastic attitude towards the Shinigami is a sharp contrast to the way she interacts with her own Shinigami, Rem, who is far more protective of her. Misa also asks Light if he knows how to kill a Shinigami, a bold question that doesn't seem to bother Ryuk, though it leaves Light thinking. Meanwhile, L is still wrestling with confusion. The second Kira's audio tapes, which dismiss the police's efforts to portray Kira in a negative light, have thrown him off. L begins to suspect that Kira and this new figure might have already met and are working together. This new development leads L to increase his surveillance on Light, instructing Mr. Mogi to keep a close eye on him. He believes that if Light truly is Kira, the second Kira might try to make contact with him soon. L, increasingly worried about the possibility of being murdered by Kira, prepares for the worst. He tells Light that if anything happens to him, Light should be considered a prime suspect and arrested. This declaration puts Light on edge, but he hides his frustration as the two meet outside of college. During their encounter, Misa unexpectedly appears, much to Light's anger. Her bubbly personality leads her to introduce herself to L, who is going by his alias, Ryuga Hideki. Misa, unaware of the danger she's in, casually talks to both men, while Light inwardly rejoices, realizing that Misa can see L's real name. However, things take a sudden turn. After Misa leaves, Light receives a phone call from L, informing him that Misa has been arrested on suspicion of being the second Kira. This catches Light completely off guard. He can't believe L has moved so quickly to apprehend her. Meanwhile, Misa is shown blindfolded and restrained in a chair. L, determined to extract information, orders Wataru to begin torturing her. Despite the pressure, Misa remains unable to provide the answers they want, as she eventually relinquishes ownership of her Death Note. This decision erases all of her memories regarding its existence, as well as her knowledge of Light's involvement as Kira. Light Yagami begins to suspect that L is growing more suspicious of him. In a strategic move, Light approaches L and claims that he might unknowingly be Kira. He suggests that there may be a subconscious version of himself committing the murders without his conscious awareness. His reasoning is that all the evidence points to him being Kira, even though he cannot remember doing any of it. This statement shocks Light's father, Soichiro, but Light insists that it would be logical to consider himself the prime suspect. To strengthen his argument and prove his innocence, Light proposes that he be imprisoned and monitored. His father, Soichiro, agrees to the idea and insists that he too be confined to avoid letting his emotions interfere with the investigation. L, intrigued by Light's strange behavior, decides to go along with the plan. During the confinement, Light secretly talks with Ryuk, telling him that he will relinquish ownership of the Death Note. They agree on a subtle phrase that Light can use to signal Ryuk when he is ready to get rid of it. As planned, after Light's imprisonment, Kira's killing suddenly stopped, further intensifying L's suspicions. However, Light uses this moment to relinquish ownership of the Death Note, causing him to lose all memories of being Kira. Light's drastic change in behavior puzzles L. He goes from being calm and calculated to acting completely desperate and confused, a stark contrast to his former demeanor. Meanwhile, Kira's executions resume outside of Light's confinement, which leaves L even more perplexed as he tries to piece together the mystery of who Kira truly is. In a final attempt to determine whether Light and Misa are the two Kiras, L and Soichiro Yagami devise a dramatic stunt. Soichiro, Light's father, pretends that he is taking them both to be executed. During this staged event, Soichiro drives Light and Misa to a remote location, informing them that he is going to kill Light and then take his own life out of shame. The shock and desperation on Misa's face is evident, and Light, although calmer, pleads with his father, trying to convince him not to go through with it. He insists that they are not Kira and the second Kira, and if his father kills him, they will all fall into Kira's trap. Just as Soichiro fires the gun at Light, it turns out to be loaded with blanks. The stunt was meant to test their reactions, and Soichiro reveals that he couldn't bring himself to actually harm them. L then steps in, concluding that based on their reactions, he no longer suspects either of them of being Kira. However, he remains cautious, pointing out that Misa's DNA was still found on the audio tapes used by the second Kira. After this tense moment, Misa is released. But Light continues to work on the Kira case alongside L. Meanwhile, L and Watari move the investigation headquarters to a new building in the city. Elsewhere, Rem meets with a mysterious businessman to discuss the Death Note. The Yotsuba group, consisting of 8 businessmen, begins plotting their next moves, planning the next murder Kira will commit in order to gain a competitive edge in the market. After being moved to the new headquarters, L, feeling conflicted and somewhat dejected, continues his intense focus on Light. He remains suspicious despite all the evidence pointing to Light and Misa's innocence. In a surprising suggestion, L proposes that he and Light be physically tied together to prevent Kira from acting without his knowledge. This proposal sparks tension, leading to a physical scuffle between them in the headquarters. Light becomes frustrated with L's continued distrust, and the tension between them only heightens. As time passes, Kira's killings resume, but something feels off. Both L and Light begin to suspect that Kira may now be acting with a different motive: financial gain. They trace the connection to the Yotsuba group, a powerful organization that seems to benefit from Kira's actions, particularly in the stock market. L and the team realize that Kira is no longer just punishing criminals. Now, he is killing for the benefit of the Yotsuba group. Meanwhile, as the investigation moves in secret, Aizawa, one of the investigators, struggles with his loyalty to L. Unable to make peace with L's methods and feeling tested beyond reason, he ultimately quits the task force in frustration. In a quiet moment at the end, Aizawa sits alone in a park, overwhelmed by his decision. His wife, Eriko, and daughter, Yumi, happen to pass by and see him. Aizawa, trying to hide his emotions, tells them he was given some time off. However, as he holds back his feelings, he begins to break down, revealing how much he didn't want to leave the investigation. Feeling sidelined and inferior in the Kira investigation, Matsuda decides to take matters into his own hands. He sneaks into the Yotsuba group building, hoping to gather evidence. However, before Matsuda can act, he is caught by the 8 businessmen who have been working with Kira. Thinking quickly, Matsuda uses the fake identity card that Watari had given him and pretends to be Misa Amane's manager Taro Matsuri. He offers the businessmen a deal involving Misa starring in their commercials, while trying to figure out how to escape the situation. While Matsuda stalls, he discreetly activates the emergency signal in his belt buckle, contacting L and the team. L instructs him over the phone, pretending to be an acquaintance calling about a casual get-together. Matsuda plays along with the act, convincing the businessman that everything is normal. Under L's guidance, Matsuda fakes his own death to escape, making it appear as though he had fallen from a balcony during the scuffle. Later, during a Yotsuba group meeting, one of the members expresses fear over Kira's actions and decides to leave, worried about facing the consequences of their involvement with the killings. The investigation team installs wiretaps and surveillance cameras inside the Yotsuba group headquarters. They are stunned by how openly the businessmen discuss using Kira's power to manipulate the market for their benefit, including deciding whom to kill next. Light and L, while reviewing the footage, develop a plan to make contact with one of the Yotsuba members, Reiji Namikawa. After approaching him, Namikawa agrees to act as a spy for them, delaying the group's decisions on whom Kira should kill by raising concerns during their meetings. Despite the progress, L continues to play mind games with Light, subtly reminding him that he is still a suspect. L's suspicion persists, even though there is no clear evidence to link Light to the recent Kira activities. L then turns his attention to Misa, suggesting that she infiltrate the Yotsuba group to gather more information. Though hesitant, Misa agrees to help with the investigation. Meanwhile, Suichiro Yagami expresses his concerns about the operation. He fears that even if they manage to gather enough evidence against the Yotsuba members, it will be nearly impossible to arrest all of them at once without someone escaping. The team faces mounting pressure as they continue their covert investigation, knowing that Kira's influence has seeped deeply into the Yotsuba group. The third Kira, Kyosuke Higuchi, becomes interested in Misa Amane after meeting her during one of the Yotsuba group's gatherings. Unaware that Misa once played a role as the second Kira, Higuchi sees her as an opportunity. Meanwhile, Misa has no memory of her past involvement as the second Kira. Her memories have been erased. During a break from the meeting, Rem, the Shinigami connected to Misa, approaches her. Misa can still see Rem, but even when she touches a piece of the Death Note, her memories don't return. Rem explains everything, revealing the truth about Misa's past as the second Kira. Rem also warns her that her survival depends on trusting Light completely, stressing the danger she could face if she doesn't follow his lead. Misa heads back into the meeting with the Yotsuba group, and soon her intuition takes over. She notices something peculiar about Higuchi's behavior. Quickly, she deduces that he must be the current Kira, the one responsible for the killings that L and the investigation team are trying to stop. Then, Misa agrees to go on a date with Higuchi. She uses her charm and quick thinking to get close enough to him and easily secures proof that he is indeed the Kira they've been searching for. However, Misa's ability to figure this out so effortlessly raises alarms for L. He grows increasingly suspicious, wondering how Misa could accomplish something that has eluded him for so long. After discovering that Higuchi is Kira, L decides that they must not rush to apprehend him immediately. L's plan is to first understand how Higuchi is able to kill, as this knowledge will be critical in proving beyond doubt that Higuchi is Kira and putting an end to the terror Kira has unleashed on society. L believes that knowing the killing method will provide them with a powerful advantage when dealing with any future threats. To lure Higuchi into revealing himself, L arranges for Sakura TV to broadcast a Kira special. In this broadcast, Matsuda, posing as an insider, will declare that he knows Kira's true identity. This is designed to provoke Higuchi into action, as Higuchi would feel compelled to silence the whistleblower before his secret is exposed. The businessmen in the Yotsuba group, having been granted immunity from prosecution, help deceive Higuchi into falling for the trap. They cooperate with L's plan, feeding Higuchi the belief that Matsuda is about to expose him. As Higuchi becomes desperate, he races toward the television station, determined to kill Matsuda and stop the broadcast. Meanwhile, L and the entire investigation team monitor his every move through a series of cameras and wiretaps set up in his car and along his route. They watch carefully, waiting for the right moment to capture Higuchi and uncover the method he uses to commit the Kira killings. The tension builds as Higuchi rushes to his fate, unaware that L and his team are one step ahead. While Higuchi is driving towards Sakura TV, he talks to Rem, the Shinigami accompanying him, about his situation. Meanwhile, L, Light, and Misa observe his actions from the investigation team's building. The trio becomes suspicious as they notice Higuchi talking to someone, but no one else is in the car. L speculates whether Higuchi could be communicating with a Shinigami, a possibility that could explain his strange behavior. Rem pushes Higuchi to continue with his plan to reach the television station, but Higuchi has his own reasons for following through. When he arrives at the station, he enters the offices and writes down Matsuda's fake name in his death note. The investigation team, watching closely, initially assumes Higuchi is simply jotting down a note for himself. However, his sudden change in behavior raises red flags. L quickly deduces that Higuchi might be attempting to use his killing method. Realizing that time is running out, Higuchi makes a deal with Rem to gain the Shinigami eyes, allowing him to see people's names just by looking at their faces. This sends L and the task force into a frenzy. They now understand how Higuchi is capable of killing, and L orders the team to act swiftly. As Higuchi tries to escape, a high-speed pursuit ensues. L commands the police to apprehend Higuchi before he can kill anyone else. Aizawa and ID lead a squad of police cars to block Higuchi's path, bringing the chase to a tense conclusion. With Higuchi in custody, Aizawa returns to the task force, completing this dramatic turn of events. Higuchi is arrested for being Kira and responsible for numerous murders across the Kanto region. The task force examines his death note, and during this process, L discovers that Shinigami truly exist. This revelation shocks L, leaving him momentarily stunned. Taking advantage of the situation, Light seizes the death note. As soon as he touches it, his memories as the original Kira return. Immediately, Light takes control and writes Higuchi's name on a scrap of the death note, killing him. It is then revealed that when Light initially gave up ownership of the death note, he implemented a fake rule within it. This rule states that if the owner fails to use the death note at least once every 13 days, they will die. This false rule misleads the investigation team and limits their ability to dispose of the death note, as doing so could risk their lives. While the team debates their next steps, Light discreetly orders Misa to retrieve the second death note, which he had hidden months earlier. Knowing that she will need more power to fulfill his plan, Misa makes a second deal with Ryuk, once again gaining the Shinigami eyes. Her new goal is to uncover L's true identity. As Light's grand scheme continues to unfold, L begins asking Rem questions about the death notes, but Rem reveals only the bare minimum, careful not to provide information that could implicate Light or Misa. Meanwhile, Misa resumes using her death note to kill criminals. Despite Light's denial of her involvement, L grows increasingly suspicious of Misa. Rem, aware of Light's true intentions, realizes that his plan all along has been to put Misa in danger, forcing Rem to act, and ultimately sacrifice herself to protect Misa by killing L. Later, Light finds L on the roof of the investigation headquarters, where L reflects on his feelings of isolation and his deep distrust of others, noting how people often lie. It is a rare moment of vulnerability from L, but it only further solidifies the contrast between him and Light. When the two rejoin the task force, L reveals his plan to test the 13-day rule, which is the only thing currently keeping Misa from being arrested again. However, before L can act on this plan, Rem intervenes. Unable to let Misa suffer, Rem kills both Watari and L, sacrificing her own life in the process, as the life of a Shinigami is forfeited when they act to extend a human's life. In the chaos that follows, Light secretly takes possession of Rem's death note, celebrating his victory in silence. With both L and Watari dead, Light is finally free from the threat that has been closing in on him for so long. After L's death, Light discovers the record Light left behind detailing the Kira case and promptly deletes it, erasing L's final account of his achievements. With L gone, the investigation team is left with a decision. They choose to appoint Light as L's successor, trusting him to continue leading the investigation. To protect the public from panic, they also agree not to announce L's death. Light, now free from suspicion, resumes his killing spree with renewed determination, targeting Aber, Wedi, and the remaining members of the Yotsuba group. The story then jumps ahead 5 years into the future. By 2012, Light has joined the National Police Agency, NPA, of Japan at the age of 23. This marks his rise within the ranks, solidifying his position of power. Meanwhile, shortly after L's death, his computer had automatically sent a notification to an elderly man. This man, clearly connected to L, shares the news of L's demise with 2 children, suggesting that the battle against Kira may not be over yet. Mello, determined to pursue Kira independently, decides to leave the orphanage and align himself with the American Mafia to achieve his goal. Nier, on the other hand, allies with the President of the United States. Alongside Steve Mason from the FBI, he establishes the Special Provision for Kira, a specialized team dedicated to capturing Kira. Meanwhile, Aizawa informs Soichiro that the director of the NPA has been kidnapped, with a ransom demand for the Death Note under Light's task force's control. Unknown to them, it was Mello who orchestrated the kidnapping. Upon discovering the situation, Light takes action and kills the director to protect his identity. Frustrated, Mello escalates his efforts by kidnapping Light's sister, Sayu, in an attempt to gain leverage. Scrambling to save her, the investigation team seeks assistance from the SPK. During the discussion, Nier reveals that he is aware of L's death and suspects that someone has tried to replace him. The tension between Mello and Nier, two potential successors to L, is now driving the hunt for Kira from two different sides. Nier suggests to Light that they work together to rescue Sayu. Soichiro carries the Death Note to the designated exchange point set by the kidnappers in Los Angeles. However, during the journey, Mello's men hijack the plane Soichiro is on, eventually dropping him off in the middle of a desert. Light closely monitors his father via satellite until Soichiro enters an underground facility where the exchange is supposed to take place. In the facility, Soichiro successfully trades the Death Note for Sayu's release. Once Mello gets his hands on the Death Note, he orders his men to slaughter most of the SPK team, eliminating the opposition. Following these events, Nier proposes to Light that they should fully cooperate in the future, sharing his suspicion that Mello is treating the hunt for Kira as a race between them. Meanwhile, in the Shinigami realm, a Shinigami named Sido tells another Shinigami, Harmonia Justin, that he has lost his Death Note. Justin reveals that it was stolen by Ryuk and dropped into the human world, connecting the Shinigami realm's events to the chaos surrounding the Death Notes in the human world. Light uses the Death Note to manipulate one of Mello's mafia members into mailing him the address of their hideout. Sido, the Shinigami whose Death Note was stolen, sees the address and seeks out Mello. Once there, Sido reveals to Mello that the 13-day rule, originally thought to protect Light, is a fake. Meanwhile, Light informs Ryuk that he will relinquish ownership of his own Death Note and plans to borrow Misa's. The next day, Misa, posing as Kira, contacts the investigation team and claims she will give them her Death Note. She also informs them that most of Mello's mafia members will die on November 10, making it the ideal time to retrieve the stolen Death Note. After receiving the second Death Note, Soichiro Yagami makes a deal with Ryuk to obtain the Shinigami Eyes, hoping it will aid in the recovery mission. On the set date, the investigation team launches a raid on Mello's facility. During the operation, Soichiro comes face-to-face with Mello and uses his Shinigami Eyes to see Mello's true name, Miel Kiel. However, before Soichiro can write Mello's name in the Death Note, he is shot. Mello escapes by setting off explosives, and Soichiro is rushed to the hospital where he passes away, comforted by the knowledge that Light cannot be Kira because he could see Light's lifespan. In the aftermath, Light returned Sido's stolen Death Note, closing this chapter of the investigation. The President of the United States publicly declares America's neutrality on the Kira issue during a broadcast of Kira's Kingdom on Sakura. Meanwhile, Mello, now scarred, infiltrates Nier's headquarters by taking SPK agent Hallie Lidner hostage. Mello's goal is to secure the photograph Nier has of him, ensuring Kira cannot use it to kill him. In exchange, Mello informs Nier about the existence of Shinigami and reveals that some of the Death Note's rules, including the 13-day rule, are fake. Already suspicious of Light, Nier proposes to the investigation team that they test the 13-day rule. However, none of the team members believe that this is necessary. Despite this, Aizawa begins to harbor doubts about Light's innocence. Nier invites the team to contact him if they decide to cooperate, and it becomes clear that Aizawa is struggling with whether or not to reach out to Nier. Ide, sitting beside him, encourages Aizawa to do what he believes is right. In response to Nier's actions, Light contacts the President of the United States, threatening him and demanding information on the SPK's location. Later, Hitoshi de Migawa, the host of Kira's Kingdom, acts as Kira's messenger and delivers a worldwide broadcast from America. In the broadcast, he incites the public to storm the SPK's headquarters, painting them as enemies of Kira. Demangawa commands Kira's followers to storm the SPK headquarters in New York. Misa watches the chaos unfold on television, waiting for the moment to kill Nier as soon as he leaves the building. Inside, Nier asks the Japanese investigation team to consider the possibility that Light may be Kira. Meanwhile, Nier and the remaining SPK members manage to escape the building by throwing buckets of money out of the windows, distracting the mob of protesters. Aware that his team is beginning to suspect him, Light sends Misa an email with a new plan. At home, Aizawa is shown spending time with his daughter, Yumi, who is now a teenager studying for her exams. Later, Aizawa makes a pivotal decision and contacts Nier, providing him with information from the earlier Kira investigation. This leads Nier to conclude that Light is indeed Kira. Aizawa then informs Light that he would like to resume surveillance on both him and Misa to help clear their names. Light, trying to maintain his innocence, agrees without objection. Soon after, Demegawa appears on television, urging Kira's supporters to donate money to build a temple in honor of Kira. Disgusted by Demegawa's opportunism, Light has Teru Mikami, the new owner of Misa's Death Note, kill Demegawa. Back at the investigation team headquarters, Aizawa realizes that with both Light and Misa under observation, neither of them can be responsible for the recent killings, deepening the mystery around Kira's actions. Tragic events in Teru Mikami's childhood lead him to believe that God has destined him to stand against evil. When criminals worldwide begin dying, Mikami is convinced that this is divine justice and frequently appears as a guest on Kira's kingdom. After receiving a death note from Light, Mikami becomes ecstatic, assuming the role of judge and executioner on behalf of Light. He also selects Kiyomi Takeda, a former girlfriend of Light from their college days, to be the new spokesperson for Kira. Realizing that he can manipulate this connection, Light arranges a meeting with Takada under the guise of aiding the investigation. During the meeting, Takada receives a phone call from Mikami. This is when Light reveals himself to Mikami as Kira. Together, they devise a scheme to have the investigation team remove all surveillance bugs from the room. Once alone, Light tells Takada that he wants her to be his goddess in the new world he plans to create. Light informs the investigation team that he will pretend to be Takada's boyfriend in order to get close to Kira. Meanwhile, Mello watches Misa, suspecting that she may still be involved as the second Kira. Nier travels to Japan claiming he is there as bait for Kira, and Light silently accepts this challenge. Nier reflects on how to defeat Light, knowing that the person carrying out Kira's will has Shinigami eyes, and communicates through Takada. Following Light's instructions, Takada asks Mikami to send her 5 pages of the Death Note, and informs him that he will continue his work in a fake notebook that is identical to the real one. While heading to a broadcast, Misa encounters Takada and, out of jealousy over Takada's popularity, rushes her. Hallie Lidner, who has been sent by Nier to serve as Takada's bodyguard, intervenes and stops Misa. However, later on, Takada and Misa meet for a girl-to-girl talk, with Lidner present. By the end of their conversation, Takada concludes that Misa is unintelligent, and Lidner reports back to Nier about the love triangle involving Light, Takada, and Misa. Meanwhile, Stephen Gavani, a member of the SPK, confirms that Mikami is the new Kira after witnessing him kill someone by writing in his notebook. This revelation brings the investigation closer to Light's secret ally. After receiving Gawana's report, Nier decides that they must get closer to Mikami to gather more information, but they must be careful not to alert the Shinigami that is following Mikami. If the Shinigami realizes they are trailing Mikami, it might warn him, ruining their chances of catching him. Nier instructs the SPK to remain cautious, but continue monitoring Mikami closely. Meanwhile, Aizawa, growing more suspicious of Light, marks several notepads before Light and Takada meet again. This is to check if they are secretly communicating through written messages. During their meeting, Takada shares details about her earlier conversation with Misa. Annoyed by the trouble both women are causing him, Light reassures Takada that she is the only one he cares about. He manipulates her further by writing a script for her, making it seem as though she is aiding in Kira's capture, which will benefit the investigation. After this meeting, Aizawa's suspicions are confirmed when he notices that Takeda and Light are indeed exchanging messages in secret. He reports this to Nier, reinforcing the SPK's growing doubt about Light's innocence. As the tension builds, the SPK makes their move and detains Misa. When Light reaches out to Nier, pretending to be concerned about losing track of Misa, Nier calmly informs him that she is under their custody, sending a clear signal that they are closing in on him. In the meantime, Guani continues his covert investigation into Mikami. On his second visit to Mikami's gym locker, Guani carefully examines the contents and takes photographs of the names written in Mikami's death note. He confirms that Mikami is indeed continuing Kira's work, and Nier verifies that the handwriting matches Mikami's. With this evidence, Nier is now fully prepared to move forward with his final plan to expose Kira. The stage is set for the final confrontation, as Nier gathers all the pieces needed to corner Light and bring the truth to light. Mello, with the help of his accomplice Matt, initiates a daring plan to kidnap Kiyomi Takada, throwing a wrench into the delicate balance of both Nier and Light's schemes. Their goal was to orchestrate a meeting between the SPK and the investigation team, but Mello's bold move disrupts everything. Matt plays a crucial role by acting as the diversion, but things quickly go wrong. As he tries to create an opening, Takeda's vigilant bodyguards spot him and promptly shoot him dead, ending his part of the plan almost immediately. Despite being captured, Takada remains calm and prepared for such an emergency. Unbeknownst to Mello, she has secretly hidden a piece of the Death Note, which she managed to keep with her. Using it, she writes Mello's real name, Mihail Keel, on the piece of paper, ensuring his death before he can use her as leverage against Light or Kira's plans. Upon learning of Mello's death and the entire situation, Light seizes the opportunity to eliminate another loose end. Using a piece of the Death Note in his possession, Light manipulates Takada into committing suicide. Under his influence, Takada sets fire to everything around her, destroying all evidence, including the hidden Death Note pages. In this way, Light ensures that no trace of her involvement or any evidence that could connect back to him remains, effectively protecting himself from further exposure. This calculated move brings him one step closer to securing his position as Kira. Light and Nier, both having meticulously planned their final strategies, meet face to face in an abandoned warehouse for their long-awaited confrontation. Each is confident that their plan will outsmart the other. Light brings Mikami to the meeting, instructing him to write down the names of everyone present except for Light himself in the Death Note, aiming to eliminate Nier and his team once and for all. Nier, however, remains calm and certain of his advantage. He reveals to Light that the notebook Mikami is using has been tampered with. Nier had anticipated Light's actions and ensured that the pages of Mikami's notebook were replaced with fakes. He tells everyone that they simply need to check the names written in the notebook. Whoever's name is missing must be the real Kira. While Nier explains his plan, Light struggles to contain his excitement. In his mind, everything is still going according to his own strategy. He already knew that Nier would tamper with the notebook, which is why he had planned for Takada to hold on to the real Death Note, swapping Mikame's for a false one. Light believes he has outwitted Nier, and, as the final seconds before the supposed deaths tick away, he confidently declares his victory to Nier, believing he has won the game. Enjoying this recap? Hit that subscribe button to see more of Bonnie's shows. But nothing happens. The notebook fails to work as Light had planned. Nier then reveals the final twist. He had anticipated Light's strategy and had actually tampered with the real Death Note. The entire operation was a trap, and the notebook Mikami used was fake. Mikami is restrained, and Nier presents undeniable evidence of Light's involvement, finally exposing him as Kira. Faced with the overwhelming truth, Light confesses to being Kira. However, in a last-ditch effort to escape, he attempts to use a hidden piece of the Death Note concealed inside his watch to write down Nier's name. Just as he prepares to act, Matsuda steps in and shoots Light multiple times, preventing him from completing the deadly task. Light, now gravely wounded, collapses on the ground in pain. Amid the chaos, Mikami, distraught over the failure of their plan and seeing his god defeated, kills himself. The sudden commotion allows Light to take advantage of the situation and flee the warehouse. However, his severe injuries prevent him from getting far. As Light limps away, Ryuk watches from above. True to the promise he made at the beginning of the story, Ryuk writes Light's name in his death note. Light suffers a fatal heart attack, and as his life slips away, he sees the figure of L standing before him, marking the end of his reign as Kira.